This is the Digital Shelf Insider podcast of MetricsCart. Hi, all. Welcome back to the Digital Shelf Insider podcast of MetricsCart. I'm your host, Shreshta, and today we have a hot topic to discuss at length, and it's all about agentic AI in e-commerce. We're joined by Anil, who is building Genrise AI, and I'm super excited for this episode, and I'm sure you're too. So let's hear it all from him. Hi, Anil. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Very well, Shrestha. Very nice to connect back. Thank you for the time. Doing very well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's start a little bit with the basics. So, what does agentic mean for an AI in a commerce context? And where do you think there's that fine line between automation and decision making?
Okay, brilliant. So, I think that's the most foundational part of the discussion. So, great that we are starting with that. Let me kind of share my perspective on the difference between an AI assistant and an AI agent, and I think that will clarify a lot of things as we think about it, right? So, AI assistant is typically a piece of software, an AI software that is waiting for an instruction from a user.
Right.
However, an agent is someone who is working without necessarily waiting for an instruction. So that is the foundational piece of the difference, the way we think about the AI agent for e-commerce content.
Yeah.
And there are three characteristics that we have been building with this e-commerce agent. Number one is the proactiveness, being able to work asynchronously without waiting for the users to give a prompt or give an instruction. The second thing is if a degree of autonomy, but also having an understanding of what are the boundaries for the decision making. So where to involve the user and where to work autonomously, right? So that's the second characteristics of the agent that we are looking at in the e-commerce content side. And the third one is the agent must be able to solve some higher degree of the complexity of the tasks. So unlike a assistant where you give like a prompt and then you get an answer, write a bullet point or so, and a PDP element. In this case, the agent should be able to reason about the specific tasks that are required to be executed in creating the PDP copy or a digital shelf copy. So we are thinking about the three things. One is the proactiveness of the agent, asynchronously working, autonomy with the guardrails for the decisions, and the third one is about the complexity of the task that an agent can execute.
Interesting. So, what does a typical workflow look like on a daily basis when we work with an agentic AI?
So I mean, in this case, the way we are, you know, um, seeing the trend in the market with the agentic frameworks and the way we are building the e-commerce content agent is that the typical workflow starts by looking at some of the activities that are uh, happening outside the boundaries of the organization. So being able to understand the data from digital shelf analytics tools like your company, right? So there
Yeah.
is a lot of data that comes in from the digital shelf analytics tools.
Hmm.
There is a lot of data that comes into the e-commerce teams from their commercial teams. There is a data that comes in from the search agencies and the brands about the A/B testing that they might have done.
Yeah.
So the workflow for an agent starts by ingesting that data, starting to make sense out of that data and understand what does it mean for the digital shelf content? What are the opportunities for improving the content?
Right.
And build a strategy from there, right? So that's where the workflow starts,
Mhm.
and it goes on to be able to involve the user in the decision making, and then kind of create a content, update it, adapt it to the style guides of the marketplaces, and finally push it back to the syndication systems. There are already syndication systems that are distributing the content. So the agent looks at the content for the full life cycle and involves the users on an ongoing basis to execute the end-to-end digital shelf content life cycle in terms of the optimization journey.
Interesting. So, what are sort of the protective measures that we need to possibly take into consideration because there is the aspect of hallucination or
Yeah.
since it's AI?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think that's been the talk of the town, right?
Yes.
For the last
Yes.
year or 2 years.
Very much.
And and I think I mean there are a lot of nuanced details about the digital shelf itself. From an outset, it looks like a simple problem to create a product PDP copy with the new keywords and the new intent data.
Yeah.
But there are like number of challenges the agent actually goes through in terms of creating the data on tone, following all the rules, following all the style guidelines. So what we have done is that we have distributed the agents based on roles.
Yeah.
So there are role based agents. So there is, like, imagine there is one agent that is responsible for reviewing the claims data that is available for that product.
Yeah.
The second agent may be responsible for reviewing the brand tone and the voice, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So what happens when an agent actually makes a mistake? There is another agent that is able to catch it,
Yeah.
and the chances of hallucination or getting it wrong are very reduced once we have that orchestrated process of multiple agents working together.
Yeah.
So that's one idea that we have taken. In addition to being able to uh, train the agents and fine tune them to the level of details that an e-commerce content agent is required, we have the guardrails with the individual reviewers, across the workflow. And the second thing that is important is that a human in the loop is being included at every step of the process.
Yeah.
And the fine line is not to include the human too many times,
Yeah.
but also not to, include, not to let them be away from the process for too long.
Yeah.
So the agent is being continuously fine tuned based on the individual behaviors of the brand. A brand manager in a company A would like to review all the 5 steps of the process, while a brand manager at company B would be only interested in reviewing the fifth step in the process, right?
Right.
So it learns based on the behaviors of the users' interactions and the brand preferences, and then includes them so that the chances of the hallucination are reduced and the actual content is being created with the right quality. So those are the two things that we are working with, and we seem to be getting it quite okay so far in terms of the quality of the content.
Very interesting. What's been like the toughest challenge in training GenRise's agent to understand sort of the marketplace rules as well as the brand tone? I think you mentioned earlier also. So, how do you really tackle that part?
Yeah, so I think the two big challenges that we have been working towards were that the different marketplaces have varying guidelines around their um, rules on the style guide.
Yeah.
As simple as the length restrictions.
Yes.
So a bullet point for Sam's Club needs to be only 65 characters, and for Amazon and Walmart could be 150 and 225 characters long, right?
Yeah.
Um, so when an agent is working and it has a very limited real estate and it needs to include as many keywords as are given to the agent to kind of optimize the copy, uh, there is a fine balance that it needs to draw on complying to the style guides and the user intent, but at the same time be able to include all the keywords that have been provided to it. So that has been one of the toughest challenges for us to deal with on how do we bring the two elements together, and allow the agents to be able to kind of understand both the sometime competing requirements to deliver the content that it needs to. And then we also realized that there are very detailed nuanced in each of these brands, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of brands have the brand tone and the voice, which is fairly standard. Not that it is easy for an AI to understand like the humans do,
Yeah.
but there are also undocumented rules a brand follows. And a lot of these things are typically in the agency briefs. They are in the emails floating around with the brand teams and commercial teams.
Yeah.
So being able to comprehend those rules and be able to kind of apply them on those products is another challenge. How do you get to understand these rules quickly enough so that you can kind of make those adaptations to the copy? So that's the second challenge that we faced while building this up. And we are I think we are making a good progress on both of them. And like I said, it's like a continuous process to be able to kind of learn through that and evolve it from there.
Makes sense. So many organizations face or fall into this trap of random acts of AI without a proper strategy in place. So, what measures can agentic solution providers like us take to help, kind of develop a unified AI vision and, avoid this kind of fragmented initiatives?
Oh, very, very good question. And I think one of the first things some of our design partners were steering towards was that there are already tons of AI tools, and they
Yes.
don't need another AI tool to be kind of coming into their world. And the way we are thinking about this is that the AI needs to be able to work within the existing digital shelf stack, and the agentic solution should be able to get integrated to the existing digital shelf technologies like your PIM systems, your
Yes.
analytics systems, your SEO and marketing data systems, your CMS, your DMS,
Yeah.
the DAM systems, right? So all of those things are uh, almost like the cornerstone for getting the right AI technology. So what we are trying to steer is that the agent should be able to work where the current users are working.
Yeah.
The users necessarily do not need to come to another system. They should be able to see the outcome of an agent within their existing systems, whether they are working with a PIM or with the analytics system, looking at the data that exists right now, or whether they're working for a syndication system to be able to publish that data. So this is how we are trying to kind of
Yeah.
engineer the workflow and kind of connect it to the existing digital shelf stack, Shrestha.
Interesting. Looking ahead, like about 12 months down the lane, how do you think AI agents are gonna, transform or evolve? Pretty
Yeah.
fast, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think no one knows what's going to happen in 12
Yeah.
months. Because, we didn't know what we had experienced in the last 12 months. The
Oh,
amount of
yes.
shift that it has happened is unimaginable.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I guess we also see the retailers developing at their end also at a very quick pace, and we need to catch up there.
oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the Sparky and Rufus AI,
Yeah.
and now Shopify integrating with the Chat GPT, and Google came up with their own new shopping agents
Yes.
and so on and so forth. So there is a lot going on, but there are two things that are very clearly becoming the leading indicators. One is that there would be a content convergence across the channels.
Yeah.
Right now the content discovery is not only limited is primarily limited to the marketplaces where the users are going on, but more and more users are starting to discover the products from different places, right? From the social media, from your e-commerce channels, from your D2C channels, from your
Yeah.
conversational commerce. So what we believe in is that there is going to be a convergence of content across channels, and AI is going to enable that. So all of these different places will have their own agentic solutions, and they
Yeah.
should be able to kind of work together or talk to some kind of a content agent to be able to create the copy that makes sense in their context of that channel, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So that is one shift. The second shift that we are seeing is that the conversational commerce is becoming like one of the fastest growing part of the ecosystem now.
Yeah.
uh, there are only 16% of the users who do the first level of discovery for retail and consumer goods brand on ChatGPT,
Yes.
uh, and which was 0% like 18 months back, right? So the
Yeah.
amount of uh, accelerated adoption of the conversational commerce is going to be the another big disruption that is going to come in the next 12 months. And I think we are still to be seen, like, some of the brands, some of the marketplaces are taking an approach where they are opening up their catalogs to the conversational engines, right? While the others are taking the approach of not opening it up and inviting the users to be on their platform. But this disruption is going to be real for the AI to be able to kind of address and drive towards, right? So the two things: one is the content convergence across channels, and two, what we believe is the acceleration of the commercial conversational commerce is going to drive a significant shift the way the users are shopping and engaging with these marketplaces and the brand contents.
Definitely. That was a great chat, Anil. It was really nice having you. Totally enjoyed this, and I'm sure our audience would feel the same. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Shreshta. Pleasure talking to you.
We've come to the end of the episode. If you loved what you just listened to, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back next Monday with a really awesome guest. Stay tuned until then.